Hi, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today we're going to be servicing this SHAKESPEARE 2210 fishing reel. Let's do a quick ops check on it. It spins up okay. The bail seems to be working. The anti-reverse works. Let's tighten the handle down a little bit. Okay, now, yes, anti-reverse works and the drag works. Alright, so we're going to take this apart, clean it up, and get it ready to go out fishing again. First thing we're going to do is remove the handle. Next we're going to remove the spool. And follow that up with the side plate. These screws coming out of the side plate sound a little bit gritty, so definitely in need of a little attention. Okay, we remove the side plate, which contains the main gear, and we're going to go ahead and disengage the anti-reverse so it's no longer engaged to the main gear, and we'll remove that. Okay, this is our anti-reverse mechanism. This is engaged, this is disengaged. Alright, we're going to clean the grease out of that and get it cleaned up. Next thing we're going to do is remove, well, this particular reel has screws on each side, which allows you to take both side panels off. So we're going to take the ones from this side. But to keep these screws separate, the screws on this side, the non-handle side, are actually shorter than the ones on the handle side, so we're going to keep those separate. Alright, with that removed, we can now remove this screw right here in the crosswind. This grease in here has really caked up and gotten old. We're going to go ahead and remove this screw on the crosswind block. Now it's difficult to see in all that grease, but there is a washer on this screw, so be sure you don't lose it. I'll set it over here. With that removed, we should be able to pull the axle shaft out. There we go. Axle's out. That allowed the crosswind block to fall free. Okay. Next thing for us to do is remove the nut from the rotor, and it might be a reverse, yeah, it's reverse threaded. So don't ever put too much tension one way without checking the other direction. Some of these reels are reversed from what the others are. Okay, you've got your nut, you've got a washer, and you've got your spool. Okay, inside of here we've got these three screws holding this plate on, which I believe, well, let's see if it's even necessary to take that out. Alright, that allows us to take the pinion gear out from the inside, and there is a washer inside here. We're going to take that one out, put it over here. This is a ball bearing, but you don't really have to take it out as long as you can get it clean. So, but we're going to go ahead, just so that everybody knows how it goes, and remove the three screws off of the hold down for it, and see if we can't get that bearing out, because this is all very gritty and full of dirt. You remove this all the way, note where this ramp is. Okay, the screw that is on the clockwise side of the ramp, this point on this ramp actually points towards the foot. So remember that when you go to put it back. Yeah, that's really dirty. Okay, and we'll see if we can't push this bearing out. We can get to it from both sides, so. Yeah. Okay, it's not making any effort to come out. So what we're going to do, we're going to slide the pinion gear back in, take the rotor, put it back on, we're not going to use the washers or the any of that, or the spacer hold down. We're just going to screw the nut back on. That nut on. Now let's see if we can get enough. There we go. That allowed us to pull the bearing out. Okay, so we've got the rotor out. Now we've got the bearing off. Yes, this bearing really needed to come out and get cleaned up. It's very gritty, and so we're going to try to clean that up. Okay, these are all the parts, and what we're going to do, we're going to spray all of them down with some WD-40. Any penetrant will do. They all work very well as a degreaser. People tend to think of them just as a lubricant, and actually for a reel they're not really all that great a lubricant, but they do work exceptionally well for degreasing. Normally, I don't recommend taking these bales apart, but in this particular instance, we're going to need to, because if you notice right here, see how the bale isn't returning all the way? It's gritty. There's something under here which is catching. Alright, so normally I recommend not taking these apart, but because of that grit in there, I've lubricated it, we've sprayed it, and it's not helping any. I'm really leery about taking them apart, so I'm going to try to take, I'm trying to figure out which side is the spring side. I believe the spring is on this end. So what I'm going to try to do is take this part, this side loose, and try cleaning it first and see if that will help. There is grit under this side, so maybe that is the side that's causing the grief. All right, with that clean, we will put some oil in it. Clean out the hole. And there was quite a bit of dirt left. Alright. Slip that back into place. In order for that to go on, you have to move this trip lever over. Okay, slide that down. Let's look under here. Yeah, there's quite a bit of dirt under the head also. So let's clean that off as well. Alright, with all that cleaned off, let's see if the bale performs better. The spring side off. Alright, the trip is on this side over here. We're going to trip it. There we go. And if you lift it up a little bit, it goes right back down. So all the grief that was being caused was by the grit under that side. This side over here feels fine. We're going to add a little more oil to it though, just to make sure that it stays fine. And we'll clean off the excess over here. All right. That's going to bring us over to the spool. Now if you see this right here, that's actually part of this like pipe cleaner that's wound onto it. Don't try to mess with that. That's there to help keep dirt out. Okay. Next up, it's going to be getting out the spring for the drag washers. Put your finger over the top of these to hold it in place so it doesn't shoot up and out of there. Then you can lift this out. Okay. And okay, so what we have, that's it, huh? Okay. We have 2 keyed washers and a drag washer. The interest, oh, there it is. There we go. I thought it was one really fat drag washer. There we go. That's better. Okay. Now, what you see is you've got your spool. Inside the spool goes this keyed washer. See, it's got this horizontal shaped key inside. Okay, you've got that. Then you've got your drag washer, your fabric one. Then you've got this eared washer. See, it's got these 2 ears. They're going to mate up with the ears on here. And you've got your fabric drag washer again, followed up by another keyed washer. Okay, these are all nice and clean, but they're very dry. They've been there a long time. So what we're going to do, we'll drop in the first one, the keyed washer, and we're going to take the fabric washer and we're going to lubricate this washer with drag reel grease. If you don't have drag reel grease, you can use regular fishing reel grease, but the drag reel grease works much better. Okay, next on that, it's going to come that eared washer. Remember, the ear goes into those tabs, like so. Okay, then we've got the next fabric washer. Apply the grease, rub it in a little bit. Helps keep that pliable. Goes in. And then comes your last keyed washer, and it's time to put the snap ring back in. Okay, hold it in place on one side to make sure that it can't pop out, and snap it back into place. Make sure it's all the way down in there, which it is. All right, this is ready to go. The only thing we need is a drop of oil right here on the drag clicker. Work it back and forth a little bit. There we go. And the last piece there to be cleaned is going to be this knob for your drag adjust. There we go, and a few of these washers over here. And the nut. All right, at this point we're ready to reassemble. All right, the first thing we're going to want to install is going to be our bearing. Let's go ahead and slip it back into the case. Oh, I'm about to put it in backwards. Just push it back out. Okay, we want the sealed side of the bearing, well, shielded side, it's really not sealed, but we want the shielded side to be facing out. Okay, snap it into place. We're going to follow that up by this retainer. Now the retainer, remember that point is pointing towards the foot. And we take these 3 screws, get them started. Don't put any of them all the way in until you've got all 3 started. Be careful not to cross thread on these. There we go. All right, with those installed, we can now insert our pinion gear. We're going to put a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of reel grease on that. And we're going to slide it back up in through from the inside. With that installed, we can now install this washer back on. Like that. Add a little bit more grease again. Now we can reinstall the rotor. Snap it back on. Install the washer. Install the nut, and remember that this is reverse threaded. Alright, we're going to add a little bit of oil directly to this pivot point for the bail trip. Now, let's see if the bail trips. There we go. Bail works fine, as advertised. Alright. Now, we are ready to reinstall the axle shaft. Don't put a lot of grease on it, just a little bit of grease, because it's probably going to scrape off as you slide it in here. I tend to rotate it a little bit, see if I can get that grease to not quite rub off so much. If it does ball up, can you see that balled up right there? If it does do that, I like to take a cotton swab and try to get that excess grease off right there, so it's not sitting in there collecting up dirt. With the axle shaft slid in, now we can come back and install the crosswind block. Set it in place, slide it in, and what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over because we got to get to the screw side of it. Alright? And if you need to, slide the crosswind block up a little bit to get it to line up the hole. Once you get the hole lined up, go ahead and start your screw into the axle. Okay, with that screw installed, you can now put this side cover back on. Remember, this is the side with the short screws. Don't tighten any of them all the way down until you've got all three started. Now we're going to go ahead and re-prep this side. Okay, make sure, I'm pretty sure I did, but I'm going to make sure that I cleaned out the hole on this side, which apparently I didn't. Okay, because it's still a little dirty in there. Alright, we're going to add some grease to the shaft and slide it back into the side case. Okay, to find out whether you got it installed properly, go ahead and flip the lever. There's your anti-reverse. Now, I didn't point this out earlier, but there is a small collar on this crosswind block post. Make sure that you don't lose that when you take everything apart, and make sure it's on there when you put all this back together. We're going to grease up the gear. Then we're going to line it up with the crosswind block. So I'm going to set the crosswind block in the middle. We're going to set the gear in the middle, and hopefully we're going to get the two to line up. We're going to go ahead and disengage the anti-reverse so that we can move that around. If you don't disengage the anti-reverse, you might have to wind it all the way around to get it to line up. So disengage it, set it in place, start the screws in. Alright, before you go any further, go ahead and spin your rotor and make sure that your shaft is moving up and down. And it is. Go ahead and install the handle on the side. Now, because we had the drag washers out, the keyed washers may not be aligned, so you may have to rotate this slightly to get them to line up. But if you set it on, if you do this, if you set it on, start to rotate it, see how it dropped down? There it goes, and it drops down the rest of the way. So that's all you have to do to realign those. You don't sit there and try to get them all aligned. You just slightly rotate it and it will take care of it. Okay. There is the Shakespeare 2210 servicing, and I hope you like this. If you did, please hit the like button. If you didn't, please hit the dislike button, but explain to me what it is you didn't like. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Let's check the anti-reverse now. There we go. It works. You can disengage it. Okay. Works as advertised. The only thing left to do to this is install new line, and I don't normally do that online. So, and I'd like to thank you for watching Young Martin's Reels.